welcome to Butterfly Tea Time Tuesday, holiday edition.
All right.
Yes.
I hope that you have your tea and your coffee ready. Today we're about to go in with Janay Townes. Many of you know her from Lupies Unite and the annual holiday special that she puts on for the lupus community every single year. Welcome, Janay. How are you? Happy holidays.
Thank you for having me. Happy holidays, everyone.
Well, in the spirit of the holiday season, I always think about Janay and the lupus community because she's the only one that I've ever seen that created a whole entire performance art of different people in the lupus community and what they're doing to make a difference in their community and bringing holiday to different people that may be in the hospital, maybe are separated from family, just to bring the holiday cheer and all the inspirational things in the lupus community. So we're honored to have you here today, Janay, with all the works that you do in the lupus community.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. I really do, especially, with everything I've been going through with the flu, and it's just been one crazy year, but I really do appreciate the kind words.
Yeah, well, I think that we all look forward to your Lupies Unite holiday special every single year. Many of us submit different performance art, different things that we're doing in the lupus community just to bring cheer and lift everyone up in the lupus community. But as many of you know that follow Lupies Unite, Janay had gotten a really, really bad flu, and she decided to practice what she preached and actually do some self-care and gear herself up for all the projects she has upcoming for next year. So we respect that, and we want to support you as your sisters and your fellow butterflies, because as I always say, no butterfly ever flies alone. And highlight you this year for all of the holiday cheer that you bring to the lupus community every year.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
So, Janay, I guess I've really never heard your story about how you got diagnosed with lupus or what that really looked like for you. And you're in Jersey, right? You're in New Jersey on the East Coast.
Yes, I'm in New Jersey. I'm about 30 minutes away from Philadelphia, so my time is split between Jersey and Philadelphia. But yes, my lupus journey, I have been diagnosed. It's been now, it will be 19 years, February 8th. Me having lupus. Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy because I look back and I'm like, wow, 19 years. But yeah, I was diagnosed 2004. I was 15, sophomore high school. And my lupus story, I like to think, is a little different and a little unique. And I say that because a lot of times when people are diagnosed with lupus, they have to wait months and years for a diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
And with me,
6 is the average, you guys. 6 is the average.
Right.
Yeah.
And with me, honestly, I did not have to wait. What happened was, I used to dance. I was a dancer. I went to the high school I went to had a dance program. So you're talking about ballet, tap, jazz, hip hop, modern. I did it all.
Wow.
And my sophomore year of high school, the summer going in to my sophomore year of high school, I started working at McDonald's. So when school started, I was working on the weekends. I was doing dance class, 5 days a week on top of gym class.
Wow.
So it may not have seemed like a lot, but it was a lot that I was doing, being on my feet. And I remember, just coming home after school and I'm like, okay, my feet hurt. Like, I don't think they're supposed to, feel like this.
Yeah.
So at first I didn't really say much. I just pretty much dealt with it. But then it got to a point where I was like, okay, yeah, we got to figure something out. So my mom, she made an appointment to see the foot doctor. I I went to go see the foot doctor, and basically he told me, you're overworking your feet. So I'm like, okay. So he wrote me out of dance for 2 weeks. He wrote me out of gym, I believe it was like for 2 weeks. And then working, I still worked on the weekends. So what they would do is I would do the drive-through, and I was able to sit down while doing drive-through. So working really didn't get in the way, because I was still able to go to work and, just sit down.
Yeah.
But after, I didn't dance for 2 weeks. I didn't do gym for 2 weeks. And at first, I'm like, okay, yeah. Afterwards, I felt fine. So I went back to dancing. I didn't go back to gym because I'm gonna be honest, I hated gym. So yeah, my doctor just, wrote me out of gym. So I went back to dancing, and I would say maybe like a couple of weeks after dancing, I started noticing the pain again. So this time, this is like around the beginning of like November, going into the holiday season. So we were preparing for our annual dance holiday show, and I'm like, okay, yeah, my feet started really hurting again. So my mom took me back to the foot doctor, and he's like, okay, I'm going to order these tests, and I want you to get these tests. I don't even know. I know he ordered like a whole bunch of blood work. He ordered x-rays, and he was like, go get these tests, get the x-rays, and then come back when you get them done.
Yeah.
So we didn't get them done right away, but I will say the week of the dance performance, I remember I was gearing up to, perform, but like the day of the performance, I like my feet were hurting too so bad that I couldn't perform. So I didn't perform. Um, and of course, like I was heartbroken because I knew that I was going to be a dance choreographer since the age of 4. Like that was all I knew, like dance, dance, dance. So not performing in that performance was a big deal for me.
Yeah.
So, during the Christmas break, I wasn't dancing. I can't even remember if I was working or not. I think maybe like a couple of days, but I think I just didn't go because of my feet were hurting. So one particular morning, I woke up, I could not get out the bed. Like that's how bad the pain was. So my mom was like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna take you to the doctor's office. I didn't have an appointment. She didn't care. She was like, no, we need to figure this out. So
Really.
I don't even know how I got down the stairs, but I got down the stairs into the van. My mom takes me, to the foot doctor. She's like, listen, she's in the car right now. She can't walk, what are we gonna do? So we went, got those tests, came back, and then he was like, set this appointment up. I think it was probably like 2 days after those test results came in. And then I went back, and he's like, based off of the results, it seems like she has lupus. Now, I never heard of lupus. I didn't know what it was. I remember my mom having a conversation one time. She was speaking to my aunt, her sister, and she mentioned lupus, but she said something like with her eyes. So when the foot doctor mentioned lupus, I'm like, my eye, there's nothing wrong with my eyes. So he was like, listen, I want you to get a repeat of these, tests because, I've been doing this for so long, but I've only seen this one time in my career. And if I'm right, then, you know, she has lupus. So by this time, it is the new year. I went back to school, went back to work. I don't think I went back to dancing because it was just still too painful. Um, but I remember it was the weekend of Martin Luther King birthday, and there was no school Monday. So I remember working that weekend, and then that Sunday, my sister picking me up, and she's like, listen, we don't have school tomorrow. Mommy said that we can go out to, there was a teen club in Philly that we would go to. And
Yeah.
she's like, you know, mommy said we could go. Now, I'm not going to kid you guys, my feet were hurting so bad. But I'm like, listen, you're not about to leave me home.
Why you go to this club?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not leaving me.
Uh-uh.
So I went home, got in the shower, got dressed, and we, you know, went to the teen club. And I remember only dancing maybe one time that night.
Wow.
And by the end of that night, the club let out. We're, you know, walking towards the entrance, and I'm steady like walking. And then I noticed like everyone stopped. So when everyone stopped, I stopped. I leaned up against the wall. Now, when everyone starts moving again, I could not move my feet. Like it was just too like painful. And my sisters are like, come on, Janay, like mommy's out, she's waiting, she's waiting. I'm like, I can't move. So my mom is like a 5 foot short, real petite woman, and she's from Philly, so she has like that hood, you know.
Strong.
Yeah. So she gets out the car. She's like, Janay, what? I'm like, Mom, my feet. She's like, all right. She gets the security. She's like, listen, can you pick her up and bring her out to my car? Because we gotta go. So the security guy, he picks me up and puts me into my mom's van. And all I remember on the ride home, I was just crying because that's how bad the pain got. And when we got to my house, I think my sister's boyfriend, he carried me up the steps. And I remember taking 2 ibuprofen and then went to bed. The next day, we didn't have school. So I got up, I was able to, you know, get up and walk out the bed. I went downstairs, and from that morning on for the next 3 weeks, I got sick. It was to the point where like I couldn't eat. I lost so much weight. I think I was like 130 at the time. I went down to like 93 pounds.
Wow.
It was just like it was crazy. So my mom is steady on the phone with my aunts, and they're like, you need to take her to the hospital. Like, what's going on? And I remember like the first maybe week, my sisters are like, Mom, she's faking. Like, she just doesn't want to go to school. She's faking. She's faking. So, you know, as time went on, my mom's like, okay, yeah. So I remember she took me to my primary care physician, and she didn't really, she wasn't, honestly, she was not helpful. It wasn't like she said, you know, you should take it to the emergency room. I just remember her saying, you know, maybe she has the flu. It just has to run her course. So she wasn't really helpful. But what happened was, because I had missed like 2.5 weeks of school, I was a nerd. Like I love school. So me missing school for that long, like everyone knew something was going on. So I took it upon myself. I said, Mom, can you please contact my teachers so I could get my work sent home? Because I don't want to, you know, be behind when I go back to school.
Yeah.
So she did that. My math teacher, she's like, okay, well, you know what? I'm just going to come to your house and help you get caught up. She was like, you're one of my favorite students, and I know something's going on. So she came to my house. I believe it was on a Sunday. She came to my house and she came in, and I was on the couch, and I just remember her walking in, and she's looking, she's like, Janay, like, this is not my Janay. So I'm like, okay, let's start working. She's like, no, we're not doing no work. Like, close that textbook. We're not doing nothing. So my mom was like, all right, it's time. We're going to take her to the emergency room. So it was me, my younger sister, my mom, and my stepdad. And we went over to Delaware to AI DuPont Hospital for Children. And all I remember them saying when they, got me back there was, she's really, really sick. Like, they didn't really say, what it was or what it could be, but they just said she's really, really sick. She's going to be admitted. So I would say maybe the next 2 days, the second day, is when the doctors came in and they said, you have lupus. And like, okay, so where's the medicine to get rid of it? And they're like, unfortunately, it's a chronic illness. You're going to have this for the rest of your life. And they were like, you have lupus nephritis. So they did the kidney biopsy, and they told me it was a stage 4 lupus nephritis. And the hospital that I went to, they're super, super, like, awesome when it comes to speaking to the children, especially teenagers, about their diagnosis, and like really being, explaining everything in full detail. So they explained everything to me. I don't think it clicked. It was just, oh, okay.
You were still in shock, probably.
Yeah, you were young. 15 is a lot.
Yeah.
A lot to take in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember I was in a hospital for a week. And then, they, put me on all these medications.
Of course.
And yeah, after the week, they discharged me and I got home. It still did not click. I think it started clicking for me when I started seeing the weight gain from the prednisone.
Mm-hmm.
I was on a really, really high dose of prednisone, and like, I went from being like 90 something pounds to all of a sudden my cheeks were really puffy, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? So even then I'm like, okay, yeah, it started clicking. And then like April came, my birthday, I turned 16, but I didn't have my sweet 16 until May. So, by the time May came, you could definitely tell the prednisone weight. And that is when it started to click. And I remember after my sweet 16, I stopped taking all my medicine.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this. Like, y'all can take this. I am not.
So you were just done with the steroids.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was, I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this.
So you took yourself off, or you just like, I'm just over it.
Yeah, I took myself off. I stopped taking the medicine, and then like I went into a deep depression. And I remember not going to school for like a week and a half. And my mom having to, go up to the school and explain to them, like, she's having a really hard time. And then I remember getting sick and having to go back to the emergency room. But this time they're like, I could have almost possibly lost my life because, I stopped taking the medicine.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, you cannot do that. Like, you have to take this medication. So from that point on, up until, the end of high school, that's when it started to click for me.
Yeah.
And I would say that summer, the first summer of me being diagnosed, is when I started realizing that I'm not like everyone else. I can't, I can't keep up with everyone else.
Yeah.
I remember me and my sisters would walk everywhere, like everywhere. And I remember one time we walked and I could not walk back home because like my feet started hurting. And I had to call my stepdad, and he's like, okay, we'll come and get you. But that is when, I started realizing, okay, Janay, you're not like everybody else. Like, and even then, at 15, 16, you're still a child. You still want to feel like everyone else. You want to do what everyone else is doing. So it's like, okay, well, why can't, I do what everyone else is doing? And then me being so stubborn, I would still do what my sisters were doing and pay for it, later on.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much like my lupus diagnosis. And as you see, like it really honestly, it wasn't a weight. It's weird how my first initial symptom was feet pain. But like when I think back, like now, I can remember my mom taking me and my sister to the doctors like 13, 14. And I can remember getting blood work and, giving them urine. And they always would say, Janay has a high amount of protein in her urine. I remember one particular time I asked the doctor, like, what does this mean? She's like, oh, it doesn't mean, you're just active. So, you just have more protein. But now that I know, like, that was a sign.
Yeah.
Like an early sign of, lupus nephritis. So now that I think back, I could probably say my symptoms probably started around 13.
Yeah.
Because when I was 13, I went through this, I lost not all my hair, but my hair fell out really, really bad. Like I could just remember I would comb my hair and it would just shed. Like it would just come out. My mom was, I guess, greasing my scalp and she's looking, she lifted up and she was like, okay, yeah, you definitely, it was like 2 huge bald spots. And the only hairstyle I could wear, like the only thing I could just only wear it down. And we don't even know like why, my hair started falling out like that. But again, looking back, I'm like, okay, that could have been,
definitely.
So now that I think back, I started experiencing lupus symptoms around 13. And then, I think, they always say lupus comes when you're going through like a stressful point in your life.
Yeah.
And for me, even though I was 15, I was dealing with someone that was older than me that had baby mama drama. So that was
almost triggered you emotionally.
Yeah.
Plus your full activity, your scale of activity was crazy. It sounded like with dance.
Yeah.
Coupled with the
You had a full circle of things going on.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was pretty much, my diagnosis. And of course, as the years go on, you get the underlying illnesses. And I feel like every year it was something different. It was different. But yeah, that was pretty much, my diagnosis. And as you see, it wasn't really, that long.
Quite a journey, starting at 15 and even having symptoms at 13, just having to go through that at such a young age. What age were you when you decided that you were going to start this amazing corporation, Lupies Unite?
This was only honestly like 3 years ago.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
You've done a lot in 3 years.
Yeah. Because the thing is, when people are diagnosed with lupus, and I'm sure you guys can contest to this, you go through a grieving process.
Yeah.
And you don't know how long that grieving process will be. And for me, that grieving process was like a good 10, 12 years of grieving. It took me a while to accept the fact that, I have lupus, but, also accept the fact that, there's nothing that can change that. So, when I tell people that, because they think that I've been doing, everything for a while, and honestly, I wasn't. To be truthful, to be honest with you guys, it took me a while to just come out, because I used to be so ashamed and so embarrassed to tell people, that I have lupus. I would literally, not tell anyone. Because of the fact of, people don't understand lupus.
And I think that our education is getting better in the lupus community, but I think years ago, I mean, look at Seal. Seal was willing to let everyone think that he had gotten burned in a fire rather than say that he had lupus, because like years ago, people would think it was contagious. They didn't understand it. And that's why our community, through our education, we are growing and we are letting people know, and it's starting to not be such an invisible disease. But for a while, I prefer to not let anyone know, because it feels very isolated and misunderstood and lack of
because when I was diagnosed, social media was just starting out. So when I was diagnosed, I didn't have anyone my age. So we're talking, 15, 16, that I can, talk to. So I would say like the first 2 to 3 years, I just felt alone, because I really didn't have anyone. And then like the support teams that my doctors would, recommend, I didn't really want to go to, because these are women that were a lot older than me, that, pretty much started, living their lives. And I'm like, okay, this 15-year-old girl coming in, and it's just like, I just could not relate to them. So the first, I think
go ahead.
The first person that I met with lupus that was around the same age as me was my senior year of high school. And I met her. It's so funny. Her name is Amber. She passed away a couple of years, but I met her while getting blood work. And I'm like, Mom, I think she has lupus. Because I don't know if you guys can tell, but for some reason, I could just tell when someone may have lupus. I don't know if it's like the prednisone effect.
Sometimes I definitely think that you definitely can.
Yeah. So I'm like, Mom, I think she has lupus. And I'm like, okay. She's like, well, go ask her. So the girl, her mom overheard, and she's like, yeah, she has lupus. Dr. Brusher is her doctor, and then that's how we connected. And yeah, that we were both 17. Yeah, 17, my senior year of high school. And that was the first loopy sister that, I connected with, that I was like, okay, finally someone my age that I could talk to.
Well, I'm glad you were able to get that so young, because when I was diagnosed, I didn't even know what it was, and I didn't even know anything, and there was no one immediately that I could talk to. But I only found out later that in my family, it was older people that actually had lupus before, and some that were still living at the time, but they were much older. They were like in their 60s and 70s, and I'm in my 20s. So it was a big age gap, but it was like, okay, now I know what I've heard of it, but I still don't know anything about it.
Yeah. And like I mentioned, my aunt has lupus, and no one knew. And the thing is, how we found out is when I was going through, being diagnosed, and she told my mom. But up until that point, no one knew that she had lupus. So when I got diagnosed, that's when she decided to tell me when she had lupus. But not only that, she has discoid lupus. Her lupus is no way near, I have a severe case of lupus. My aunt, she's not on doctor's medications. She could do the holistic. She does she's into vitamins, herbs, and all of that. I mean, now she's in her 60s and she's now taking medication. But yeah, she, up until, I would probably say a couple of years ago, she did not have to take doctor's medications.
That's right.
Yeah, when I was diagnosed, she couldn't understand like what was really going on with me, because she's like, I have lupus and I don't go through what she goes through. And I remember one time she's like, well, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I'm like, Auntie, I can't do what you're doing. Like,
and every case is so different. Fingerprint disease, because every case is so different. Not only are there different types of lupus, but it affects people differently. It affects different internal organs. It affects your body feels differently. And so each person needs to navigate their own journey. We can all lean on each other, but we all have a journey.
And I don't think she understood that.
I think you're right, because like Fee said, like, so many people have a different experience. Like within my family, I have cousins that have both, and I only just have SLE, which that's quite enough. But I still get the male rush like a lot of people with lupus, but I didn't have discoid lupus, so I didn't know about the skin lesions and the stuff that happens with your scalp and all of that. So, but the older people, and I have a cousin now newly diagnosed in her 20s, and so she has both too. So she felt comfortable talking to me. And I was like, okay, I was diagnosed in my 20s. You can ask me anything you want to ask me, because I didn't have this resource. And I think that some of the older generation, they didn't really talk about it, especially in the Black community. And that's bad, though. If somebody knows that something is going on, we need to have those conversations within the family, so that the next generation will at least be aware of it.
Because autoimmune illnesses are in my family. Like, my mom was diagnosed with lupus about 10 years ago. And again, she has the discoid lupus, with the ball spots and like her legs being discolored. But again, like, that's something I don't know why in the African American community, when someone has something, it's like, oh, don't tell nobody. And even now, like, when I talk to my aunt, like probably like last year, she was in the hospital, and she was having issues with her lungs.
Mhm.
So me, knowing, I like to think, I'm a doctor myself after dealing with
I mean, after this point, you pretty
Right.
much know a lot.
I'm
You
like,
do.
yeah. I'm
It's
like,
a study. Being a
yeah.
doctor is just a study, and I mean, studying it through having it and all the different cases, I mean, you are doing some type of studying that a lot of doctors
Yeah.
are doing right
Yeah,
now.
definitely. So,
Like
go ahead.
I thought that my aunt, no, she was telling me, she was in the hospital for her lungs, and she's
Mhm.
like, yeah, I'm okay. They're just, I'm like, okay, auntie, I know what's going on. Either, her lupus is starting to, progress,
Mhm.
and that happens the
It
older you
does.
get. Like I was
Yeah.
just telling my mom, like every year it's something new.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. What you said she was diagnosed with discoid lupus. Most people that are diagnosed with one, they eventually may get the other one
Yeah.
because it attacks your immune system. Your immune system is compromised, so it's attacking within. So when the organ starts getting involved, that's not
Right.
discoid anymore. That is switched over.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes they don't like to hear that terminology, but that's really true.
Yeah.
I mean, and so with that being in mind, so what do you wish you had known in the beginning with your lupus diagnosis?
The thing that I wish I have known was the many underlying illnesses that come with lupus. I think that a lot of times those underlying illnesses makes my lupus worse, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know with me, being on the prednisone, like I've been on the prednisone since I was diagnosed. So first of all, I'm just finding out that you're not even supposed to be on prednisone that long. Yeah.
You've been constantly on. I'm sorry.
Yes.
You've been constantly on prednisone with no pause.
No pause.
And you on it right now?
Well,
I'm on it right now. 30 milligrams.
Wait a minute. For
30
19 years. Wait a
milligrams?
minute. For 19 years? Hold
For
on.
19 years?
It's been different, different doses, but yeah, I've been on prednisone for 19 years.
wow.
I just want
Oh.
Yeah, the issue is whenever my doctors try to decrease my dose, my lupus starts to flare. So right now, like I was supposed to, like I'm on 30 milligrams. I was supposed to wean myself down to 25. I tried to do that the other week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that did not pan out the way that I wanted it to. But yeah, I'm currently on 30 milligrams. And because of the prednisone, I developed avascular necrosis, both my knees, my hips, my shoulders. I've had my left hip replaced, my right shoulder replaced. I was supposed to schedule to have my right hip replaced this year, but that's been put on hold again because my blood count's been low. And also because of the prednisone, I now wear both top and bottom dentures. So
what it does is to the bones in general. So you guys, if you're just tuning in and you don't know about prednisone, it's a pretty heavy duty steroid that's used a lot in lupus conditions, but it can have a side effect of really deteriorating bones, and teeth are included in that.
And I'm with you. I wear both top and bottoms too, and it's from a high dose of steroids for a long time, and a whole bunch of pain medicine, and a whole bunch of chemotherapy.
Prednisone has done a number on my body.
Yeah, so
Yeah. I also have a vascular necrosis.
Yeah.
I was diagnosed probably like 2 years into my lupus journey.
You know,
Because I took
funny you
so
said
much
that.
stuff. Yeah.
I was only diagnosed a year and probably like 3 months after my lupus diagnosis when I was diagnosed with avascular necrosis. Because I started noticing that my hips were hurt, like in dance class. So we're talking about, I used to do all types of cartwheels, splits, all that. And I remember one particular time I was stretching and I'm like, okay, yes, something is not it's not supposed to feel like this.
Yeah.
And that was only a year after being diagnosed with lupus.
That's crazy. So this is another question, but during the time that you was taking prednisone, they didn't do a bone density test. They didn't do a bone scan to check your bones to see the condition.
I had I know I'm due to get a DEXA scan that I'm scheduled. Like I got to schedule that, but I've only had maybe 1 or 2 bone density tests that I I've only had 2.
With that level of prednisone for that long, they should have done that. They should have been doing that. And I just want to plug that because we do have other lupus people watching this show. That when you're on prednisone, you do need to have those bone density tests. You need to have those scans done so that you can know what's going on with your body.
That's right. And
because if they're constantly giving you high doses of prednisone, and you're not getting anything to replace it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're maybe no calcium supplements. Something has to, you can't just keep doing that and not knowing the condition of your body.
Yeah.
Right.
But
now, earlier actually I had to go get x-rays of my both feet and ankles because it's a possibility that I have avascular necrosis in my feet. Yeah, that's something that I'm just like, okay, I don't know what the treatment plan is for that, because when you have it, and the joint area, like you get joint, but having it, in your feet is like, okay, well, what possibly, is the treatment? And I think I only met one other person that has it in their feet. So yeah, that's it's a scary thing to think because
absolutely.
But yeah, that there's definitely, if the doctors could have told me about these underlying illnesses, then I feel like maybe I don't think you could really prepare yourself for
just terrified that
no, because lupus is like Fee said earlier, it's so individualized. Like my major issues was my joints, my lungs, my kidneys. And I had issues with my heart. So it was like a conglomerate of things, but they was at random times in different ways. Okay, the kidney kick off. Okay, the joint pain, the swelling. Okay, kidney is really aggressive situations. You got swelling, you have no ankles, you got edema everywhere. So you don't really have a game plan for that because you don't even see it coming, so to speak.
And even I think it might have been really overwhelming to just know right off the bat instead of just kind of slowly figure it out. So Janay, with 19 years of you battling lupus and just trying different things, having different results, having different experiences, what would you tell other, current warriors and also newly diagnosed that could be tuning in on the hard days?
The one thing that I like to tell all of my Lupies, new Lupies, old Lupies, is that you're not alone.
Yes.
You are not alone. There are so many people I come across who feel that they're alone because they may not have the support system or, anyone that they can lean on. And thankfully, I've been blessed with great parents and wonderful siblings and friends that they've always had my back. Even though there are times where I'm like, there's certain things, you tell certain family members.
Like, that's gonna be a given.
Right. But for the most part, they've been super supportive. Like, they're part of the reason why, I've made it this far with this, illness, because the thing I also like to say, is when someone is diagnosed with lupus, their loved ones is also being diagnosed. They may not physically have, lupus, but, having a loved one being diagnosed with lupus, but then having to see them go through the many hospital admissions, the different, treatments, just crying in the middle of the night because they're in pain, that affects them as well. So that's why I say, we may be physically the ones dealing with the lupus, but I feel like emotionally and a little mentally, your family members are also going through it.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you said that, because I recently had a conversation with my aunt, and it was an emotional moment because I was in ICU on a ventilator, and she had to see me like that. And she was actually the first person that came into the room, because we have the closest relationship aside from probably my grandparents. But she was the one who came in the room, and she was trying to comfort me while seeing me, explaining to me that I had a ventilator, that I was on a ventilator, and tubes in my nose and stuff, and my throat, and I couldn't speak. And I asked her later, some years later, I was like, I apologize, because I felt bad that she had to be there to see me like that, because you don't want them. You're trying to be strong, they're trying to be strong, and that's part of it that people sometimes don't think about. Like you said, it's a part that our part is the painful aspect of it, but them actually seeing us like that, and trying to hold a front. I mean, keep it in and still be strong and not make us feel uncomfortable. So it definitely is a lot on the family and the people who care about you and love you.
Like I have two sisters, and we're both, all three. My mom raised us to be super close, and my younger sister, we're only like a year and a half apart. But my younger sister, whenever I'm in the hospital or anything, so I can't let her know, because I know, like, I remember one particular time I was in the hospital, and there was possibly talks of me needing to start dialysis. And I called my mom, and I told my mom had me on speaker, and my sister was in the car. She overheard that, and she just starts crying. She's like, no, like, I'll give you my kidney, like, whatever I got to do. And I'm just like, Robin, like, everything's going to be fine. They didn't say I have to start dialysis right now, but it's a possibility. But like, people don't understand, like, when your family members see you go through that, it's a lot on them. And like that, I remember one particular time I was in the hospital, after having my gallbladder out, and there was a complication where I wound up in the ICU, and I wasn't on a ventilator, but they had to put a tube through my nose to clear, because I was bleeding internally. So they had to put that tube so that it could clear some of the blood. And my sister came up to the hospital, and she was like, no, she was like, I couldn't do it. Seeing you, especially in ICU, she was like, no, I couldn't do it. So yeah, it could be a lot.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you do in times where you want to support yourself, when you want to take some time just for you, when you don't want your family to worry about you, when you don't want your friends to worry about you, you just want to take some time to take care of yourself? What type of self-care do you like to get into?
I'm a huge music person.
Mm.
I love all types of music. So whenever I find myself just needing to be by myself,
Yeah.
I will isolate myself in my bedroom, and I will, depending on what I'm going through,
Yeah.
but majority of the time, whenever I need time to just woosah,
Mhm.
I listen to a lot of gospel and Christian music. Yeah. I started journaling again.
Yeah, I was just about to
Yeah.
ask you that.
Yeah, I started journaling again.
Ma'am.
And I would, yeah, just for me, it's just the music, honestly. Like
Yeah.
I feel like music is the one thing that you can lean on.
Yeah. Carry you away sometimes.
Right.
Yes.
It can
Yes.
be that nice distraction from all of
Yes.
that pain you're dealing with in that
Yep.
moment, and can remind
Yes.
you of why,
Mm-hmm.
of your why, or why you in it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm really big on music, listening to the music, journaling.
Yeah.
And then I honestly, no, that's not it. The other thing is reading. I just got back into reading.
Okay.
So rather if it's, reading different Bible scriptures,
Okay.
rather if it's reading, different books. I just, like I said, I just started getting back into reading. So I just started reading. There's a book called Killing Comparison by, I think her name is Nona Jones. But it's kind of a like a self
Help.
help motivational type book.
Yeah.
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 I
So
love these type of books.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just love reading anything that is going to help me in my journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
So any self-help books, again, different Bible scriptures. I'm in the process of writing my own book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
Um,
yeah, that's really, music, reading, writing.
So
all
Janay,
important things.
I
It's
love
Yeah.
it.
to the process,
Yeah.
right?
wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Janay, I am so grateful that you have invested in yourself and
Mm-hmm.
taken care of yourself in the ways that you could along the way so that you could continue this journey of all the people that you're helping in the lupus community with all these little tips that you've found and all the perseverance that you possess for everything that you've done for our community. So anyone that's watching you right now, how can they find you on social media, or what can we do to get behind Lupies Unite?
Yes. So you guys can find me on Facebook and on Instagram at Lupies Unite. I also have a website, www.lupiesunite.com. And I'm actually in the middle of redoing the website. I don't know if you guys know, but Lupies Unite was incorporated back in August. So we are an official nonprofit.
Yay!
Thank you. So,
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm in the process now of, getting everything together on the back end. It's a lot of paperwork. Yeah, so I'm in the process of doing that. And just basically, I don't want to say rebranding, but we're just like rejudging a little bit.
Yeah.
Upgrade.
Yeah.
Leveling up.
Yep, exactly. But yeah, next year we have a lot coming up for 2023. 2022, I don't want to necessarily say it was a bad year, but it was a bit challenging.
Yeah.
But I just continue to push through. And next, well, I can't say next year is theoretically what, 2 weeks away?
Right.
Yes, right around the corner.
But yeah, we have a lot coming up.
So what can we do to support you, Janay? Like, we want to get behind you. We love everything that you're doing in the community.
Yes. So if you guys are interested in being a Lupies Unite ambassador, you can email me at lupiesunite@yahoo.com. Also, if you guys would like to donate, you can donate. I gotta get my Cash App, man. I don't even know it.
Well, you can put it in the link, and we'll reshare the videos and post it. Let us.
Okay, yeah, I'll get all that. Yeah.
Well, you guys know where to find her, and I definitely highly recommend you follow all the work that she's doing in the lupus community. This is another amazing lupus warrior brought to you by Butterfly Tea Time.
Yeah.
Until next time, happy holidays, you guys. Merry Christmas. Be safe, practice your self-care, and fly free.
Pretty baby, pretty baby. I've been waiting for so long, girl, yeah, to be with you alone, girl, yeah. Move your back against the wall, girl. Don't be afraid, won't let you fall, girl, no. You don't have